What's the most harmless thing you've ever done that people reacted to like it was a crime? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the Vancher channel. Also, please share your thoughts on this video in the comments. Let's get started. I tried to save a girl from drowning and got banned from the public pool because they thought I was trying to drown her. Then I went home and got grounded for getting banned from the pool. I never got to tell my side of the story. I was like 7. I'm still upset about it. I'm 43. Next story. Quit a job, and my reason stated was that I didn't like it during the probationary period. They acted like probation is only one way. Answer: got an office job once, and it was a real disappointment from how they described it from the interviews. I went to lunch on the first day and contemplated not going back. I did because I had moved for that job, and leaving would mean that I had to pay back the moving cost, thousands. I would hear stories of people quitting on the first day or never showing back up after a few days and was always jealous. Was the message received by the management? Who knows? Next story. This was sometime in the year after the 9/11 terror attacks. I was at the airport waiting for my flight across the USA to see my family. Since my first flight was a very long one, SJC to EWR, I decided to do some stretching before I was forced into a too small seat for 5 hours. I found one of those big airport-style pillars and commenced to do a hamstring stretch. I put my hands on the pillar and was slowly and systematically stretching both legs. Then I went and sat to wait to board. 5 or so minutes go by, and here come 2 airport policemen. They tell me that I had been reported to the gate agent for suspicious behavior. I was confused and asked for details, and they informed me that someone saw me apparently checking the strength of the building and pushing on things, or some such. I started laughing, and I told them that I was stretching my legs before a long flight. I even demonstrated it for them. By this point, they were a little amused too. They informed me that they were sorry to have bothered me and that the gate agent was obligated to call them if they received a complaint. Immediately post 911 was a weird time. Next story. When I was a kid, I put my elbows on the table during dinner, and my grandma acted like I'd personally insulted her entire bloodline. Answer: the precedent for that rule is very old and also completely useless to modern people. In a medieval hall, and presumably in earlier times, the tables would be stored as the table itself, the actual flat surface, and the legs, which were essentially sawhorses. So the hall would be open for people to walk around most days, doing courtly intrigue and whatnot, and on a feast day, they'd lay the tables down on the sawhorses. If you leaned your elbows down hard enough, you'd tip the table. Very reasonable to have that rule. Next time someone gives you shoot about elbows on the table, bore them with that bit of history in response. Next story. I touched the elf on the shelf, and my niece and nephew both stopped dead in their tracks and started crying hysterically. Apparently, you're not supposed to touch the elf or he loses his magic. I thought I was just helping my mom clean up. Next story. Opened a Funko Pop box. I don't like them in the boxes. Hell, I don't like Funko Pops in the first place, but people kept gifting them to me. But I opened a box during a party, and they all looked at me like I did a crime. Next story. I have, for all my life, enjoyed peanut butter and honey sandwiches. Several times I've had people react as if I was eating a turd and mold sandwich. After some time around those people, I came to realize that if they had not tasted something before the age of 7, they rejected it. Next story. Pumped my own gas. I live in Oregon, and during the weirdness of COVID, there was a brief period where we were allowed to pump our own gas, but the word didn't really get out. Next story. Put whipping cream in my coffee. People acted like it was completely bizarre and that it was somehow entirely different from just putting cream and sugar. Oh. Next story. Forgot to respond to a happy birthday text from my aunt. My aunt and uncle cornered me while I was at the wake of my grandma, not even their family, and aired their grievances at me for not responding. This was also 6 months after the fact as well. Answer: God, my family did that to me too. My aunt texted me happy birthday, but I was busy during a rush at work as a bartender and forgot to respond. The next time my dad saw me, he tore into me, telling me that if someone had stopped during their busy day to remember my birthday, that I had better remember to thank them, or else I'd look like a piece of shoot. Which was hilariously ironic to me, coming from a man that spent over 10 years leaving on my exact birthday to take a trip to Bermuda with the very family members that had taken time out of their busy day to wish me a happy birthday. And that started when I was 17. Like, how are you going to get on me for forgetting to answer a birthday text during work when you literally used to leave your teenager at home alone to celebrate on their birthday? Boomers are wild, man. Sorry they did that to you. Next story. I asked an older colleague after she complained that one of her fingers hurt what happened. Did she accidentally hit or cut herself, or it just hurts? She started to yell at me and said, "You always want to know everything. Why do you even care? It's my problem, not yours. Mind your fudge business." I was flabbergasted. What the hell? Answer: that reminds me of a former coworker I had. We were all eating lunch together in the break room and somehow got on the topic of freckles, moles, etc. This coworker started telling us that she has an uncontrollable habit of picking at her skin, especially if it's a freckle, moles, or scab. A few minutes later, we were talking about tattoos. She pipes up with, "Oh, I'm planning on getting a tattoo soon." I asked her, wouldn't that be a problem with your skin picking habit? She went off on me, yelling at me about minding my own business. And how dare I tell her she shouldn't get a tattoo? I did not tell her that. I looked around at my other coworkers, and they clearly thought she was insane at this point. I apologized and walked out of the break room. Her sudden, over-the-top reaction had my adrenaline up, and I wanted to get away before I said anything to exacerbate the situation. Maybe she was mad that I pointed out the hypocrisy? Next story. I'm left-handed. When I was a kid, I was helping my mom cook, and her aunt was visiting from Quebec, saw me stirring the pot backwards, and loudly exclaimed I was trying to poison everyone by stirring backwards. Next story. Ages ago, when my now adult children were nowhere near adulthood and self-checkout lines in local stores were relatively new, I attempted to pay for a few items in the self-checkout. Instead of simply accepting my payment, the machine started spitting out cash. I thought it would be a good opportunity to teach my children the appropriate action to take when presented with money that doesn't belong to you. Despite my oldest saying, "Just keep the money," we took the receipt to the service desk showing that payment was made with no cash requested, yet the machine spit out 420 bills for no reason. I told the person at the service desk I was returning the money and informing them that that particular line was malfunctioning. The service desk employee was rude AF, demanded to know if that was all the money that came out. They raised their voice to me and wanted to know what I had done to cause this. Told me that they were calling security and searching my bags and all that. I thought I was about to get arrested in front of my kids, even though I didn't do anything. I tried to use logic, but was getting nowhere as the person kept saying, "I don't believe you." Finally, when it was all cleared up, that self-checkout lane was closed down due to it malfunctioning. On the way out of the store, my oldest said, "Told you you should have kept the money." Not the teaching moment I was intending to bestow. Next story. In the 90s, during a block party, my neighbor was blasting music on a CD player from their front porch. The CD clearly had a scratch on it and began skipping like crazy. It went on for a solid 10 minutes. My family all heard it and commented on how annoying it was. So I set out to find my neighbors who were just chilling in their backyard. I went up to them and asked if I could turn the CD player off, walked around to the front of the house, and pressed the power button. When I looked up, my entire family was staring at me in horror, mouths gaping, as if I had just walked over and eliminated a puppy. I got chewed out for turning the CD player off, and my entire family agreed that it was extremely rude of me. I have never understood this reaction. Edit. When I asked the neighbor to turn off the CD player, they said it was fine. Next story. Went through a big goth phase as a preteen in the early 2000s. That Christmas, my very encouraging and supportive mother got me a leather handbag that was shaped like a coffin. I wore it when we went to visit family later that day, and my very Irish Catholic grandmother nearly fainted with shock. She was so upset by it, she went ballistic at my mother and a whole family argument erupted. I was just a kid with a silly, tacky bag. Answer: that's actually funny. I'm from Ireland, and during my goth phase at 14, I arrived at my Catholic granny's house dressed head to toe in black, a corset top with lace sleeves down to the ground, Doc Martens, black miniskirt with chains and spiky jewelry, and a new lip and nose piercing. It was the first time I'd worn the full getup since I was a very self-conscious teenager. She said I looked stunning and kept complimenting the design of the corset and my makeup. It meant so much to me that when she passed away, I wore the same outfit to her funeral. The priest wasn't impressed and kept giving me dirty looks throughout the mass as I mourned my gran. I hope she haunted him for it. Next story. I went to Dairy Queen once to order a caramel sundae, but really wanted score bits on it too. I asked if they could add them. Since you can get extra candy with blizzards, I assumed this would be fine. Nope. The cashier looked at me in horror and said, "We do not do that here," in the most disgusted tone. It was like I asked her to take off all her cloths. I was so confused and ended up leaving with a scoreless sundae. This was years ago, and I'm still confused as to why she was so upset about it. Answer: almost reminds me of the time I was riding my bike when my dad tossed a stick in the spokes and sent me flying over the handlebars into ground gravel and a puddle. I told him to fudge off and lock myself in my room, and I was the bad guy. He'd always do shoot like that, and he wonders why I socked him in the stomach that one time at Sears out of the blue. Next story. When attending a party at a friend's, there were people standing and sitting on the arms of chairs, etc. when I arrived, except for one armchair where a cat was all curled up and comfortable. There were no seats left, so I just picked up the cat and plonked myself down. Never in my life have I heard such a communal gasp and clutching of pearls. The room was full of gay men for Eurovision. It worked out, though, because the cat came back and sat on my lap for the rest of the evening. Even if I moved seats, he sought me out. He was a beautiful blue Persian. Made a friend for life and a few enemies, LOL. Answer. Me and my cat are in the battle of our lives at the moment. She has always ruled the roost when it comes to spots she likes to sleep or sit in. Sometimes it's my pillow. Sometimes it is my favorite seat on the sofa. Sometimes when I get up in the middle of the night to pee, she runs ahead of me and jumps up on the toilet lid and sits there giving me that "move me, I dare you" look. Recently, I bought the most ridiculously comfortable vintage leather armchair. The second I get up, she is on there, giving me that look. However, I am not letting her own this one, and I have been moving her. She is planning to make her move on me. The last time I did it, she casually swayed over to her scratching post and slowly started sharpening her claws whilst not breaking eye contact with me. I swear that meanie is going to eat me soon. Next story. Wore interesting clothes in high school while living in a backwoods town. Everything I did was a crime because I didn't care if I blended in. Moving to a more urban area was the best thing to happen to me. Next story. Not liking mayonnaise by Toronto. I went to culinary school. I've made it homemade. Still can't stand it, no matter the brand. I will eat chicken or tuna salad as that's got added flavors. Mostly sloppy sandwiches is what I can't stand. Or worse, heated on a burger. Answer. I've taken to the phrase, I don't prefer XYZ, because being a Southerner and saying I don't like mayonnaise or avocados makes people try really hard to convince me I'm wrong by asking me to try their versions. And it's mostly true that I don't dislike them. I just don't prefer them on in most of my food, but I'm not going to spit it out or anything. I just don't prefer them. Next story. I cut down the overgrown brush in my backyard. There were multiple police calls for suspicious activity, and they showed up with guns drawn a couple times. By the time I got most of it done, the cops were so sick of coming out that they said they'd help me file harassment charges against them if they were called again. The cops could have eliminated me over nothing. This crap went on for months. Next story. Used the dishes passed down from my great-grandmother. My dad was upset when I told him. They are worth nothing. I will not have a curio cabinet for displaying dishes. Answer. Seriously. I generally don't lie, but I will absolutely tell my mother on her deathbed that I will simultaneously never ever use the heirloom china and pass it on, pristine, to my son, but also that I will use it regularly for hosting the fancy 79-course ultra formal socialite dinner parties that I, a busy introvert who gives zero shoot about being formal, will definitely be having. And then instead I will use it for my casual family meals until it all breaks and maybe make a mosaic with the pieces. If she doesn't like it, she can interrupt someone's seance and give them my phone number and an annoying lecture to pass along. Next story. I got sick of styling my hair in 7th grade, so I went to the salon and chopped it all off, pixie cut style. Kids at school acted like I grew a third arm and kept asking if I like girls now. Next story. I've gotten some weird looks for buying a drink before I start grocery shopping and then drinking it while I get my other stuff. I guess people think I'm stealing it. Next story. Went to the movie alone. I had a parent accost me that it was rude and strange to be alone in a theater. I said it's rude and strange to bother a random stranger and not mind your own business. Next story. One time I was at my boyfriend's snobby aunt cousin's house. I asked where the white wine was, went into to get it, and discovered that the brand I was currently drinking was done. So I just poured a diff brand into my glass, which had a little of the old brand in it. The look on the aunt and cousin's faces when I did that, pearl clutching. You would think that I'm mixing blood in it or something. And then I heard them talking about it once or twice when they thought I wasn't around. 'Twas hilarious, and their faces live rent-free in my head. Answer. I was once in a bar, and this woman ordered a glass of wine. The bartender poured the last of a bottle into a glass, but it wasn't full. He then opened another bottle of the same exact wine and topped off the glass. This woman acted like he'd strangled a kitten in front of her and handed her the carcass. He tried to make it right by pouring her a new glass. She kept meaning at him. The manager had to be called. It was a mess. She had a sweater draped over her shoulders with the sleeves rolled together in front, if that tells you anything. Next story. I think it's annoying when someone farts and people act like a war crime occurred. I'm not talking about obnoxious or vulgar farting, but we're all human. If a little toot happens, it's not the end of the world. Answer LOL. I belong to this mom's group. That was interesting. One of the moms was expecting her second child and was complaining about how gassy she was from the pregnancy, and her husband had had enough of all the gas. One of the other moms literally gasped and as like, "You pass gas in front of your husband?" And yes, she used past gas like it was some grave sin. We all looked at her like, you don't? She continued, "I only pass gas in the bathroom. It's not ladylike to do otherwise." We all looked at her like the 1950s nut she was and quickly changed the subject. Next story. A dude yelled at me for holding the door open for him once at it. If you're a hobbit-looking old guy and you remember getting pissed off at a middle schooler for holding the bathroom door at Barnes Noble open for you in 2000, and you happen to be reading this, I want you to know that I still think about that incident literally 25 years later. Next story. You eat a pickle and everyone is fine. You drink the juice from the pickle jar and everyone loses their goddamn minds. Next story. When I was fat, like we are talking BMI of 52, just exists pretty much. Now, days that I'm skinny and somewhat conventionally attractive, even in my 40s, I get away with existing without people treating me like a criminal. I am also very tall for a woman, and I do still occasionally get someone, usually a shorter man, that still thinks me very existence is a crime for that reason. Answer, it's crazy how people treat you depending on your wage, dear. I gained about 40 pounds due to some depression a while back, and like magic, I stopped getting intimacy harassed in public. And I noticed guys were nicer to me because I wasn't a target of their flirting and was automatically in the friend zone. And women were nicer because I wasn't a threat, LOL. Next story. I didn't take my performance review seriously and got a lecture that it was now part of my permanent record. Next story. In Germany, colleagues and I went to an American diner. Everyone ordered the usual burger with fries. My colleagues ordered soda for drinks, and I had a milkshake. They looked at me as if I lost my fudge mind. Next story. I, woman, walking my dog, said a cheerful good morning to another woman walking her dog. She looked at me like I had just put a curse on her. Next story. My mother should probably answer this on my behalf, since apparently most of what I do is a crime against her. I love her, but she can be a tad dramatic. Next story. As a teenager, I shook my fist at someone in traffic who was going 15 in a 35 mph zone. They called my high school and I was suspended for 3 days. Mind you, this was off school grounds and broke no laws. My parents took the school's side 25 years ago and still pissed about it. Next story. I told my sister she burnt my pizza after she overcooked my pizza when she was baking something else in the ovens, and my brother-in-law yelled at me as if I hit her. Next story. Sitting on our new sofa, like I wasn't even a little kid that was going to jump on it or whatever. My parents bought an expensive couch set from Ethan Allen, and we didn't have any nice furniture or anything, so it was really big deal. Our first really nice thing for the house. I was only allowed to sit on it when we had guests and had to fluff the cushions and backrest immediately upon getting up. It was decorative for like 2 years. Next story. I sign things with my own pen no matter what it is. I've had people think me snobby, uptight, rude, just about every name imaginable. Truth be told, I like my pen and I know where it has been. Next story. Not liking dogs. I don't want all dogs dead or anything. They're just an overstimulation nightmare, and I have a massive fear of spit, dogs, slobber, everywhere. I will have a panic attack and throw up if they get their slobber on me, but apparently that makes me the devil mayo. I'm not even mean to dogs. I just stay clear. That's literally it. Answer, when I was really depressed before sitting on a bench near my house, a woman with a huge dog came by and kept trying to get me to rub. The dog kept asking if I was okay. And then when I refused to rub the dog, she walked off saying sorry. Dog's name. No one wants to rub you today like FES couldn't. She just accept me saying no and not being in the mood to entertain her dog. Tried to make me feel even more like shoot for not rubbing the dog. Next story. In the UK, if there's a big queue to turn left at a roundabout, I take the empty lane, turn right, and go round the roundabout once and take the turn. My wife thinks this is somehow a hugely immoral act. Surely it's just common sense. Next story. I love ketchup on hot dogs. Like I won't eat one without ketchup. People always feel the need to tell me how disgusting it is. Fine, don't put ketchup on your hot dog then. Next story. Well, I was supervising my office. I noticed one of the people working left 20 minutes earlier than usual without telling anyone. Just ducked out and left. Rest of the office was upset. I was like, I'll address it with her the next day. Because it was only like 20 minutes. I didn't want to write her up and just wanted to give her a reminder to leave when her scheduled shift is actually over. And if she needs to leave early for whatever reason, just ask in advance, and 9/10 it's no issue, especially if there is an extraneous circumstance going on in your life. I try to be a very understanding supervisor. She stared at me and reacted by calling me Hitler. Next story. I was talking with an acquaintance at work. We were in our early 20s. He mentioned he had two sisters who were cloistered nuns. So I asked if he ever considered being a priest since the family was so religious. He answered he had thought of it, but it wasn't for him. Well, a coworker overheard and berated me for daring to ask that question. To this day, I have no idea what I did wrong. Next story. Was at a restaurant I had been to many times before with college friends and put sugar in my tea without tasting it first. My freaking roommate literally chose to lecture me about that many times over the next 5 years and would bring it up to people as an example of how rude and stupid I was until I stopped talking to her. It's been 20 years and I'm sure she is still talking about it. I'm sorry, but I knew that I liked that tea with sugar and I didn't need to taste it first to know. Furthermore, I've now lived in China and that sort of fruit tea is nearly always served sweetened Fs. She looked for any reason to jump all over me for things I didn't know. Next story. I had a friend who was talking about sexuality at a bar. She said something about experimenting with a woman. I said, we've all tried it, and it was common knowledge in our small group of friends that we had all tried it. But this same friend got mad at me for telling everyone she had experimented. Girl, you brought it up. Next story. I sharpened a crayon. Yes, a crayon. The audacity of 5-year-old me wanting sharper lines for my drawing. Teacher said I was damaging property and left me crying. Kids remember these things. Next story. Drive 25 mph down a residential street. A kid was playing in his yard and the parents yelled at me to slow down. Next story. Talking. As an introvert, I usually prefer to keep to myself just because I like being quiet. But whenever I do find myself in the mood to talk, I'm often met with nasty looks and comments. I could say to someone, you look really pretty today, and they'd look at me like I had just confessed to being a serial killer. And they'd often respond with something like, okay, I guess. Like they have no idea what I'm even saying. And that leads me to staying quiet, not because I'm in the mood to be quiet, but because I'm suddenly insecure about being myself. Answer, I feel this on such a deep level. I've found a lot of the time people either outright ignore me or react aggressively to things I say. It didn't matter how friendly I was being or how benign the comment was, someone would get upset. I thought for sure there was something wrong with me, like maybe things I said were somehow offensive. I know they weren't now. Or people were just instinctively picking up on an inherent wrongness about me. So I stopped interacting with others. Since then, I've come to the conclusion people can just be reactive assholes for no reason. They like causing drama and making other people feel small. Worked out well for me, though, because it turns out I don't actually like socializing. Next story. Said I dislike being a girl and wished I were a boy because I dislike dresses and being expected to be ladylike. I was raised in a somewhat obscure, quite conservative Protestant religion that insists on conformity to traditional gender roles. So in the 1980s, I liked climbing trees, riding my bicycle really fast, playing in mud, shouting and building forts, and the other girls my age were playing with dolls. I put my doll clothes on my fat ginger cat, utterly loathed Nancy Drew and girl books, and despised My Little Pony and Barbie dolls. I was aware that I didn't fit in, but couldn't pretend interest in things I despised, so I kind of became a loner. Now, I honestly, Jeff, but it bugged me that I was only accepted and acceptable if I was conforming. Also, I'm no longer a member of that church, and neither are about 95 of my high school classmates at the parochial school I attended, at the insistence of my parents. Next story. So when my little brother was born, I was 9. I told the lady that shared a room with my mom that I thought all babies are sort of ugly until like a week after they're born because they are still red and purple till that goes away. Everyone was acting, like I said, something so out of line, and even the nurses and doctors were acting weird towards, and now I'm grown and still think the cuteness comes a week after. Next story. I said crap while talking to my friend in 5th grade. My teacher gasped, told me I'm not allowed to use swear words, and got me in trouble. The way my family and friends use this word, it never crossed my mind it was a bad word. Although, I don't think it actually is. Next story. A guest at the hotel I worked at vented to me in passing about her day. No swearing, no other guests were around, and it was maybe 10 seconds. My AGM got mad at me for letting that happen. I mean, if you want to tell the unhappy guest to keep it to themselves, go for it, but I'll let her blow off steam. Next story. I was feeling dehydrated after doing some work at a friend's house and made myself some lemonade with their ingredients, which they were fine with, but then I added a pinch of salt to it. The look of betrayal on their faces was very unexpected. It was like the person they thought I was a lie. "It's like Gatorade," I said. They were horrified. Next story. Politely asked that people in healthcare settings wear a face mask to protect my fudge-up immune system. Next story. Asked for help because I'm disabled. I explained further about my disability and why I needed help. They didn't even read the email. I can't even get a happy holiday text back. I don't know why they'd not just block me. Next story. I once said no thanks. I'm not hungry when someone offered me food, and the way everyone stared at me, you'd think I'd kicked a puppy. Next story. Took a different job that was outside of a corporation. You would have thought I'd take down someone with the look my stepmother had in her face. Next story. Pulled off the plastic film from their TV they bought like 5 years ago. You know, the packing material. Whoops. Next story. In elementary, I was sent to stand facing the corner as a punishment. How old am I? And I immediately wrapped my arms around myself while making kissing and moaning noises, as one does. I was suspended for public self-care. Next story. As I was leaving a store, I held the door open for the lady behind me, who was carrying several bags. She got pissed and started meaning me out for it. Apparently, I was being a toxic male, thinking she couldn't open the door herself. Next story. I was a teenager babysitting my little cousin while my aunt was out shopping and my uncle was at work. My aunt said I could help myself to any food or drinks. There was a box of ho-hos wrapped chocolate snack cakes in the cupboard, and I ate one. My uncle got back from work before my aunt came home. He went to get himself a ho-ho, noticed one was missing, and proceeded to have an absolute fit. I told him I had one because Aunt said I could help myself to any snacks, and that was the only thing that I ate. He eventually calmed down, but said that my aunt should have told me that those were off limits because they were his. Don't know why a grown man was so possessive over some cheap snack cakes. There were like 10 in a box, and they only cost about $2 at the grocery store at that time. It's not like they were expensive or hard to find. They literally sold them at every grocery store and probably still do. And no, this didn't happen during the time that Hostess temporarily went out of business and discontinued all their snacks. This was well before then. Next story. Expressed concern for someone's well-being. Said I didn't like roller skating. Liked a fan art of my fave character wearing green. There are others, but yeah, it goes on. Next story. Wore a baseball hat indoors and to work. It wasn't against the work clothing policy. Some people got really offended. Next story. I set a bottle of scented lotion on my desk. Never had a chance to use it. My office mate was sensitive to scents and went straight to our boss. When he talked to me about it, I said, no problem. I'll take it home and won't bring any scented products. But he was very serious about it, and that just wasn't enough. So I told him I would apologize to my office mate for bringing it in. There was no fragrance-free policy or anything. It was the 90s. But I still was treated as if I were the most inconsiderate employee ever. He remained very serious and continued to scold me. I finally asked him what he wanted me to do to make it right. Suddenly he was silent. He didn't even know what to ask me to do. There literally was nothing further he could ask for. He just seemed to want to make me cry or something and wasn't going to stop till I did. Next story. Exist as a visibly autistic person who can't mask my traits. You will not believe how many people talk to my parents like I am not there because they assume I don't understand words. All because I type mostly to communicate and wear ear defenders out of the house to tolerate loud places. Edited for clarity. I wear a COVID mask in public. I spoke of masking metaphorically. Next story. Took part in a fast. I live in a culture where it's very uncommon and associated mainly with hunger strikes or Muslims. Had to hear a bunch of people talk down to me like I was self-harming in front of them. Next story. A few years ago, my roommate, well, more like a landlord since I rented a room in her house, gave me a 3-month notice to move out, which was fine. I'd been thinking it was getting close to time for it myself. I put in my looking for rental room ad that I was looking for a pet-free rental. Part of the reason I was ready to move out soon myself was because my roommate had a dog that barked a ton and made it very difficult for me to sleep or have a relaxing time at home. And I'd tried everything. But I didn't mention that in the ad. I just said I was looking for a roommate without pets. She took it upon herself, completely unprompted, to search up my ad and read it. Laid into me about the no pets thing, saying it sounded like I disliked dogs and that it was off-putting and that I must dislike her dog, and so on. Saying that people would see that and think I disliked dogs and would be turned off from me. I figure anyone who saw it may have just assumed I had allergies or needed peace and quiet, but apparently the logical conclusion, according to her, would be that I despise dogs. Next story. When I was 13 years old and finally told my Christian parents I don't believe in God, they proceeded to say it's not possible because it'd be a murderer. Fast forward a few months and I get called out by my shop teacher in front of my entire class. A definite turning point in how people viewed me. Next story. While coaching hockey learning clinic for kids about 8 years old, I grabbed a kid, threw him to the ice gently, and started wailing playful punches and elbows on him. Some mother in the stands starts freaking out and screaming. She starts yelling, "He can't do that. Someone stop him. OMG, he's beating that kid." My wife is sitting in the area and casually says, "How about you relax? That's my husband and our son. And if you look closely, you will see our kid laughing and loving it." Sadly, this backfired BC. All the kids wanted to play fight with the cool coach. I miss those days. Next story. I punched someone at a party for being horribly misogynistic and spouting racial slurs. Everyone acted like I was the one who fudged up the party. Whatever, I don't regret it, and I'm not friends with those people anymore. Next story. At my old job, our executive director flipped out because she thought my protein powder was steroids. Next story. I live out in the country on some acreage. Vegetable scraps and stale bread get literally tossed out the door. Some animal always eats it. My suburban friends think that is bizarre. Next story. When I was in middle school, maybe 12, 13, my mom caught me up late, 12 a.m., with my light on reading a book. I'd never liked reading, but it was a teen romance and I was hooked. She assumed I was up late because of substances. When I told her I was reading and showed her the book, she ignored it. Definitely substances. Next story. At my elementary school daycare, there was this kid who, for lack of a better term, was a bit slow. I was 8 and he was maybe 6 or 7 and very innocent. Other kids ignored him or gave him crap. I made a little book of coupons for him. I misused the term in an attempt to be nice, that I think were like coupon for being awesome, coupon for telling funny knock-knock jokes, etc. I hid it in his cubby and I guess it upset him. He showed it to the staff and they lectured me on picking on him no matter how I tried to explain myself. Next story. Happened the day before Thanksgiving. I boiled too much macaroni. My husband saw how much I made and lost it. He shouted, "Oh my God, that's enough to feed 50 people. Did you follow a recipe?" I looked at him, mouth open, shocked at his reaction. I said, "Cool your tits. It's just pasta." Next story. I commented on an Ask Men discussion that was open to everyone and had a great deal of input from men and women. Most submissions were lovely, but several people came out of the literal woodwork to slander and chastise me for having dared offer a statement in the forum too, as if I had interfered in something private or actually important. I guess that's why they're called keyboard warriors. The level of cruelty of some verbal attacks is absolutely staggering. Next story. Gave a hug to a friend from behind. You'd think I stabbed someone. Yes, she knew I was there and all of that. It wasn't some big mystery or uncalled for. Our common friends wouldn't stop staring me down in silence if anyone else had done that. They wouldn't have batted an eye. Next story. Being attacked by a dog. Most owners here blame me for being attacked by their dog because I run or cower or try to avoid them. Next story. I use the recommended amount of clothes detergent, and people seem to lose it when they find out my 18 jug of Tide lasts an entire year. 1 to 2 tablespoons, people. Not the whole fudge cap. Next story. I noticed a woman in a wheelchair with her adult daughter struggling to vote at a poll station. I said, "Hey, there's an unoccupied accessible station down at the end of the line. Thanks for voting and have a nice day." Both women were wearing MAGA gear, and my style is rather fabulous if you get my drift. They both bristled at me like I Christy gnomed their dog and continued their quest of getting a wheelchair-bound person magically about 3 more feet vertical to use the non-accessible poll booth. Next story. Mixing ketchup and mayonnaise in Turkish, and when I moved to the USA, people around me looked at me like I just stabbed someone. Next story. My hand accidentally brushed against a pregnant woman's belly when I was a kid, and I was treated like I had purposefully punched her in the stomach. Next story. I mentioned that I won't be for sure marrying within my religion. Unfortunately, that's a thing in my country. Next story. I mentioned divination in the context of a fictional story, and when my mom overheard, she acted like I tried to sell my soul to the devil right in front of her. Next story. When I was 14, I was dating a guy 2 years older. So when I was 16, he turned 18, and some of my family acted like it was something crazy. He was in my friend group already, and we were dating, but somehow they gave side-eye like he groomed me or something, which honestly was annoying, because there are people that do actually get groomed by horrible people, and that's not what happened to me. Plus, he was a sweet guy and didn't deserve accusations like that. Next story. Paid for something with Sacagawea dollar coins. Cashier had to call the manager. Acted like I was a counterfeiter. Next story. I made a joke that a guy who made a wildly misogynistic comment was actually a closeted gay man. It was clearly a dig at how over-the-top Andrew Tate types are often overcompensating for hidden Grindr accounts. Outrage was manufactured, implying that I was saying gay men were misogynistic. An argument ensued that I didn't even know was happening and didn't participate in. I was temporarily banned from the sub, comment eventually deleted, and given an automated warning from Reddit. This right here, my last Reddit comment for a good while. Next story. I asked a kid at work if she wanted a sticker since her brothers had gotten some. As soon as I finished asking, she then proceeded to scream like I had just hacked her arm off. Mom looked at me like this was a normal occurrence. Next story. When my husband and his sister worked together, she was sick and wouldn't go home. So my husband took off for 10 minutes, bought her the medicine she needed, and then came back to give it to her. Well, she exploded on us. How dare we give her special treatment? We do this for other employees too when necessary. Stop treating her like a child. She just dislikes us so much. Apparently, we're real jerks. Next story. I live in a cul-de-sac that only has houses on one half of it. I parked my pickup truck with a trailer in the other half after driving all day and getting home at 1 a.m. Left for work by 10 a.m. the same day. It got posted on our neighborhood Facebook group, and I got gangpiled for blocking the road, being an eyesore, and dangerously blocking sightlines. My neighbors could not have cared less. The Karen who posted it and all that commented don't live anywhere near me. Next story. Went hiking in shorts, got bit by a spider, ended up having to go to the ER. My aunt called me screaming how I'm supposed to be smart and everything I managed to do was be stupid. The doctors heard she talks very loud. I hung up and he said, wow, she sounds like a meanie. Next story. I gave a little toddler the Heimlich while working at a restaurant when he was choking, and I mean full-on choking, like no sound was coming out. I managed to get him to throw up, and he started crying and breathing. His mother snatched him up, saying, give him to me. Shot me a dirty look and left without paying her bill. Like, gee, you're welcome. I just saved your kid. Next story. Exist. So many people are treated like scum or criminals simply for existing while not fitting someone else's definition of normal. Next story. It wasn't me, but one time a friend of mine went to the Disney store and asked an employee where the Harry Potter stuff was. She was buying a gift. This was when Harry Potter had first come out, and she had no idea it wasn't Disney. The man acted like she had threatened to set the store on fire or something. Ma'am, this is the Disney store, all huffy and offended. If he had been wearing pearls, he would have clutched them, LOL. Next story. Not me, but people who own huskies are really sick of people calling the police for animal harmful behavior because the dog is getting cold left out there in the snow. I've spoken to several husky owners, and it's always happened at least once. Next story. In college, had a wild party in our sublet, and we were actually charged with felony malicious destruction of property because some coffee grounds got stuck to the floor, and the people we sublet from decided to solve it by sanding the floor instead of letting us just mop it up, making the cost of cleaning over the threshold for a felony. Then they reported it to the police. Very unfun experience. Ultimately our own dumb fault, though. Next story. Sugar in my grits in the south of the USA. They are great with sugar, terrible without. They acted like I snapped spaghetti in Italy. Next story. Said that an erotic adult novel was smut. The room got so quiet and everyone got defensive about liking a book with a good romance story. I've read the book. I wasn't trying to be derogatory, but apparently it was a 4-letter word. Next story. Left in harmful behavior relationship when I ran into my in-laws and my ex and his new girlfriend at a football game. For my grandson, they sit and whisper and point and laugh, and all I did was get out of a severely harmful behavior relationship and am the bad guy. Next story. When I was 17, I made a joke about wanting to walk into a Claire's to ask for a free ear infection, and a 28-year-old started dogpiling me as if no one had ever made a more offensive joke. Next story. Posted something on Reddit and made the mistake of using the wrong terminology. I admit to using the wrong word, but wow. Next story. Answered a question they asked honestly. Don't ask questions you don't want the actual answer to. I'll keep stuff to myself to avoid drama. But if you straight up ask, I'm not going to lie. Next story. Took a single small sip of adult beverage. Crown Royal. Family member called the police on me because they thought it was bizarre that I would even consider it. I'm 32 years old. Next story. OMG, visit the free little library, sub, and you'll learn that community would be fine with deporting citizens to North Korea if they hold the wrong view. Next story. As a foolish, naive teen, I mentioned to a family member that I wasn't sure where our religious family stood on the topic of abortion since we'd never talked about it. They blew up at me in a verbal tirade. They reacted like they heard me say I'm pregnant, I'm going to get an abortion for fun. Next story. Opened the door for a lesbian couple, and they called me sexist and ignorant for assuming their gender. I was just trying to be polite. Next story. Years ago, I participated in a Secret Santa thing at work. I adhered to the price cap on the gifts, as stated on the little info sheets we were all given. Evidently, it was customary to go way over, and I didn't know that. My recipient was livid, absolutely livid. So mad. LOL. It was rude. Next story. I went to a private Catholic school. During an open discussion regarding healthcare benefits provided by the school to the priest, we got a little off topic. I asked why healthcare was provided because didn't the priest think healthcare would go against God's plan for him? It was a genuine question, not antagonist, but it didn't go over too well. Next story. At the old age of 19-ish, I asked my friends in college to call me a nickname, and I'd introduce myself as that nickname to other people. The nickname is just a shortened version of my name that I like. Something as innocuous as someone named Samantha asking to be called Sam. My parents, who I'd never asked to call me anything special, I would never dare Lomeo, heard someone call me this and blew up about how could I dislike my name they gave me and chose, etc., etc. To this day, I am 34. They will say my full name and make a dramatic pause and say they're so sorry they meant the shortened version. I never asked for this. It isn't a joke. They're dead serious. It's ridiculous. Most people in the family have out their nicknames. I just don't get it. They were and remain truly found and truly offended and make it my problem. If I had the audacity, I'd fully change my name. Don't like this one anyway, and the nickname is a band-aid at best. Next story. Am a woman existing in public. Told a stranger to stop touching me. You would have thought I desecrated his mother's corpse from the way he reacted. I have never offended anyone so badly in my life. Next story. Accidentally picked up a bag of frozen strawberries that had opened, spilled 3, and took it back to the freezer to get another. This old lady started cussing me out and got super inappropriate, talking about my appearance. I looked amazing, and calling me a meanie, saying she was going to snitch on me. I tried explaining that I hadn't opened it on purpose and that I put it back because grocery store staff were slammed. I picked up the spilled strawberries and was going to let the teller know what happened when it was my turn, but the lady kept swearing at me. Woman in front of me was horrified at how the older woman was acting. My turn at the till, and the old lady tries to snitch like I committed a crime, all while still yelling at me. I think she really believes someone was going to come punish me. I may have, after a few minutes of being very patient with her, said, "At least I'm not a day away from passing." The other woman walked me out and we commiserated about how weird people can be. Next story. Hands in pockets. It looks lazy. You shouldn't do that. If the boss sees you like that, it could get you into trouble. Never became a problem. Always had warm hands. 10-10 would recommend. Next story. Me. Hey, boss, if we do Initiative A, we could save $1 million a year by improving the process. Boss, are you saying that I am wasting money by running inefficient processes in my area? Me. No, I'm saying that I've found an opportunity to improve and save money. Boss, and why have you worked for so long and haven't said anything about that process? Me. I've proposed this project at least once a year for the last 8 years. Boss, so you haven't been able to convince anyone of this change and worked 8 years here? You've basically partied too hard $8 million. Me. I have pitched this project to you at least 2 times and you have rejected it. Boss, so you're saying that I am a bad manager and I have partied too hard company resources? Me. I just would like to finally go ahead and get this project approved. Boss, you are getting disciplinary actions for not running that project and allowing all that money to be partied too hard while questioning my ability to lead this team efficiently with no proof and without contributing, but keeping a negative attitude and a low emotional intelligence. Actually, you're fired. 2 months after I was fired, boss called me asking what was my idea for the cost-saving project as their department was incurring an overcost and needed to cut corners. Next story. Thrupled up. I've been in a nice 10-year supportive relationship where we all parent each other's children. But when some people find out that my boyfriend has another girlfriend, we become awful people. But a dual income home in this economy? No. Next story. Said I don't like ice cream. I don't. It's just cold, sticky mush. The person I told works in an ice cream factory. Next story. Wished customers happy holidays during Trump's first time as president. People would get irate and yell, even if I wasn't addressing them. Was definitely fun and would do it again in a heartbeat. Next story. Chose not to have children and wasn't sad about it. You'd think that I told married women in my town that I wanted their children dead and that I wanted to fudge their husbands. Next story. The self-service checkouts are intended for 20 items or less, which I knew I had more than that, but I'm very fast at using the machines and bagging my groceries. Also, all 8 self-checkouts were devoid of people, while the one register open had 3 people with much fuller carriages than mine. So I made a judgment call and took my items to self-service. The attendant started in with, "This is 20 items or less only. You need to..." "I don't care. I'm very fast and I will be through here before the register clears." "You need to go back." "I don't care." The lady proceeds to get her manager, who came over and tried the same bit with me. Very calmly, while continuing to scan and organize my items in my bags, I explained that I will be out of here very quickly, and if it wasn't the day before Thanksgiving, I would have waited online at the staffed register. The entire transaction, confrontation and all, took maybe 5 minutes. And no one else was waiting or even walked up to any of the other self-checkouts the entire time. But the manager took notes, and I think even recorded our interaction. Next story. Once went to a Sunday dinner at my mother's boyfriend's parents' house when I was 8. True farmers, old school people. While we all sat around the dinner table eating, they suggested I try the homemade candied pickles. Without skipping a beat, I licked my fork clean and stuck it in the jar. The father of my mother's boyfriend gave me a look that went to the bottom of my soul. I've never felt anything like it. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me. I've been hyper-conscious of table manners ever since. Next story. I don't like mashed potato. People look at me like I've just told them I take down children when they find out. Next story. After a memorial service, I was helping clean up and grabbed a small statue of the Virgin Mary by the head to move it. Everyone shouted, "No!" Apparently that was disrespectful, and I should have cradled it. I don't know. Clearly, I'm not religious. Next story. Aunt once was mad because I didn't stand up and walk away from table 2 in order to sneeze, like you can control when they're coming. Next story. Tell my ex-husband's ex-wife that she couldn't come into my house to show her friend around her 9-year-old's house. Next story. Having not seen The Godfather. I mentioned this at Thanksgiving one year, and you'd have thought I slapped Grandma. I did eventually get around to watching it, and honestly, I don't see what the fuss is about. It's just okay. I also do not at all like Bob Dylan, which apparently in my family is not allowed. Next story. I have no idea how my extended family found out I didn't vote the same way they did, but I have had to cut many of them out of my life because of how they started treating me after they found out. I was actually worried for my safety at times. Next story. Ate apple and vanilla ice cream together. I was pregnant at the time, and apparently that was an entirely weird thing to eat. Acted like it was pickles and Nutella or something. I just shook my head and kept enjoying my fruit and ice cream. Next story. When I was a teenager, some girl wrote a dislike blog about me, and I got read the riot act for confronting her about it. I got told that I was a bad person and that a good Christian person would let her and her friends bully me to the point of being tragic and without saying a word. I was told by my family to not react and go around looking happy because upholding my pastor father's reputation was more important than a group of mean girls attacking me for no darn reason. Absolutely no one in my community stood up for me. They got to call me a slut while I was still a virgin, and everyone believed them. Next story. I was a goth kid interested in witchcraft. My parents were Catholic. I was not allowed to be interested in witchcraft. One day my mom was doing laundry and found a shiny black rock in my pocket of my jeans. And quietly, little holy fudge, did she hit the roof. Next story. It'd say disliking an animal like a cat or a dog. Granted, those people were asking for it when they say that in the comment section of a cat or a dog video, but I don't think it should have gone as far as to say passing threats or insults. Cat or dog people always acts like their pets are the best thing in the world that could do no harms. And anyone who don't want to have or dislike pets that are heartless demons who probably came from hell. It gotten so bad that sometimes I even ended up defending the pet hater. Like disliking or hating on something is fine as long as they don't go out of their way to go harm it. And their excuse always is they might harm it. How do you know that? Do you see that person harm or harmful behavior? The pet. If anything, they might avoid the animal altogether. Even then, there are reports of pet lovers who harm their pets. I may not like someone who dislike the animal I like, but I dislike people who say passing threats and dislike things towards another person because they have differing but ultimately harmless opinions more. Next story. Conductor humiliated me when I was confused on a rhythm during a first read-through of a piece during rehearsal. This was an educational setting, playing that instrument for the first time. Everyone had played the piece the previous semester. I was new to the group and covered the part in the percussion section that was missing. That was really uncalled for, and for a pretty reasonable and emotionally intelligent human being, never apologized for it. Well, he definitely felt justified. I thought it was bullshit. Next story. When I was in middle school, I wrote a note to my friend, basically saying I wasn't going to mess around with a particular guy just because it's what he expects of me. Teacher found the note and sent me to the office. They called my parents. I got like a week of ISS plus grounded, and for years, no one would listen to me. After I grew up, got married, and moved out, I was talking to my mom about this, and she tried to say I was wrong, and she could prove it because she still had the note filed away. I made her get it out and read it. I did not get an apology. Next story. I just moved to England, and I didn't know about the minute of silence thing they do for the past wars or something. I walked into work during the silence with my earphones in, waving at everyone with a smile, like I always did. Got to the desk where I would set up and said good morning to my desk mate, and she looked at me like I'd just insulted. She shushed me, and once the silence was over, she explained why everyone was quiet. Well, gee, I'm not from here, and I had my earphones in. How was I supposed to know? Next story. I bite straight into string cheese without peeling it. It tastes the same, but people look at me like I'm a psychopath. I just don't have the patience. Next story. At my college job, there was a rock everyone used to keep the door to the building open because it would lock automatically and it was a pain. One day I wrote Dwayne Johnson on that rock and my supervisor got a telling off because of it. Some crusty old people who worked in that building as well told her that one of your student employees just vandalized our building. Next story. Told the volunteer at the community center teen dance who was counting kids in groups of 5 that my sister and I were paying together and I only had a 20 bill and I didn't want to throw off her counts. And then she made me and my sister wait till the very end of the line. And somehow my folks found out about it and I got in trouble because I was rude. When all I said was, she and I are paying together, but I only have this and I don't want to mess it up. Like I'm sorry I was a nervous child and I didn't want to lose track of my sister or not get in. Next story. I took a picture down the hallway at an anime con. Later, I noticed all the way down the hall, there was an open door, and it framed a cosplayer in a cool way, and I wanted to paint it. I posted it to a private group for the event, asking if anyone recognized the costume. You couldn't see the cosplayer's face to ID them, so I could ask if they'd be all right with me painting it. I knew legally it was fine, but it felt rude to not ask. Lordy, you would have thought I posted revenge adult content. Next story. Bought my nephew a soda at McDonald's, got no thank you for babysitting all day, and was never told that cola wasn't allowed. Never eliminate any of my 4 kids. Next story. I was holding some books at school. A friend dumped some trash on the books because they didn't want it. So I dumped it off to be petty. Not my problem. Figured they would notice and reluctantly throw it away themselves. They didn't notice, and another friend picked it up and acted like I had just committed a crime and told me I was very rude. Next story. I was at work, sweeping the floor. I went over someone's toes, not intentionally, it was a small space, and I thought the woman was having a stroke. Apparently, it's a superstition in some communities, and I just sentenced her to an eternity of torment. Next story. When I was in middle school, I went camping with the church youth group in the fall. It was chilly, but I had read somewhere about making a pillow that would reflect your body heat back at you if you filled it with ground-up styrofoam instead of padding. The smaller, the better. I didn't sew, and my mom didn't have time to sew it for me, so I got a Ziploc sandwich bag and filled it with the tiny styrofoam bits to see if it worked. The other kids saw it when I was on the trip and called the counselors on me for having substances. I had to explain it several times before it made sense to them. Next story. Changed a baby's diaper because the other adult that was supposed to be watching her was dozing off on the couch, and after the 3rd time of her saying she was going to get up and then not doing it, I did it myself. It was a whole conflict in the household because I wasn't about to let a baby sit in her soiled fudge diaper. I still don't understand why it was a big deal. Next story. Older guys get offended when I, a young lady, open the door for them, and what I thought was polite is actually incredibly emasculating, apparently. Next story. Say, I don't believe in any gun. That has led to fights and a lot of bullshit, including being fired from 3 different jobs just for not being a Christian. Next story. After leaving a manager's meeting, one of my coworkers was walking alongside me, and I gave her a congratulatory shoulder tap, as one does when someone does a good job, and said to her, "Hey, good job in there." The way she turned around and screamed at me in front of all of our colleagues and made a huge scene about who touches someone like that, I was beyond mortified, but I realized she just wanted to make me look bad. She took many digs at me over our time working together. She was the type of person who always described herself as brutally honest, but was honestly just a too full of herself jerk. Next story. I had to delete a Reddit account because I made a joke, mocking Elon Musk. They thought I was serious and got hundreds of negative messages. Some people need to learn sarcasm. Next story. Saying thank you. My parents were divorced since I was young. I was visiting my dad and stepmom and dad for the summer. While my siblings and I were in the pool and my stepmom brings out stuff for peanut butter and jelly. I tell her thank you because my mom always told me it was respectful to say it when someone does something for you. I tell her thank you and she just snaps. She gets up in my face and screams how I'm the most ungrateful child she has ever met, and she threw the bag of bread at my face. Next story. I was in the library, starving, and pulled an apple out of my bag, quietly, respectfully, just a student trying to survive. The moment I bit into it, crunch, heads turned. The librarian's eyes widened like I detonated a bomb. "Excuse me," she hissed, marching over. "No food allowed." I froze mid-bite, apple still in my mouth, guilty as charged. It wasn't gum, it wasn't chips, it wasn't even messy, just fruit. She made me walk out with the apple in hand, like I was being escorted for grand theft produce. My classmates whispered like I'd been caught smuggling contraband. And all I could think was, imagine being criminalized for vitamins. Next story. Was going through some emotional stuff and fell off the wagon after being sober for 3 years. I went to AA meetings but was treated like crap and shamed me. I'm not perfect, but they acted like I eliminate someone. Toxic relationship that I had to leave. Next story. Apparently I treat my cat like Shoot because I occasionally annoy him by touching his adorable paws. Next story. I like to eat spaghetti sandwiches. It weirded people out in elementary school. Still do it. I think M&M might sell them in Detroit. That's it for this video. Don't forget to support Vancher and my second channel, Vanchoose. See you soon.